was great to see what you're doing there at Pete's Candy Store. It was really fun.
Oh, thanks.
So, been here about 3 years, you say?
Yeah. I really love it.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
You know, don't really want to outgrow it. We like where we're at. And the folks are real nice to us, so we just love it.
Yeah, yeah. You know, have you found that, like, that sense of the messy spirituality, or that ragamuffin gospel, or that, you know, just even with your own personal life, kind of those steps? Any advice for people that feel like they're just the...
Well, I read those books you just mentioned.
Yeah.
I mean, life is messy.
Yeah.
The problem is some Christians don't want to admit that or pretend like it doesn't exist. And so we get upset when we see people's lives being messy or flawed or things like that.
Yeah.
And I think we need to learn to live in reality.
Yeah.
And by living in reality, more of us pastors have to be transparent.
Yeah.
You know, not saying like we go out there and we're condoning all this sin. It's just we're saying this is the reality of life.
Yeah.
And it's messy. And this is why we need redemption and we need grace. You know, Jesus didn't die because we could become perfect.
Right.
Jesus died because he knew the struggles. You know, he empathized the pain. He paid for the sin.
Yeah.
Not so we can continue to go on and do that,
Right.
but because those are the things in life.
Yeah.
And you know, we're going to run into problems and destruction and questions and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
And you know, after seeing what I went through in the 80s with my parents, and how many preachers turned on my family, big televangelists and all these different folks, you know, I'm realizing this isn't just a problem of someone who doesn't know their Bible.
Yeah.
You know, there's people who claim to really know their Bible, who are not practicing forgiveness and restoration, and are not loving their neighbor, not restoring their neighbor. And that's why we all need grace, because loving people is really hard.
Yeah.
You know, that's where I find works come in. People say, well, you know, what about works? You know, I'm like, just try loving somebody.
Yeah.
Try loving your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
It's not really easy.
Yeah.
You know?
And on that note, you know, that was a fascinating Sundance special documentary thing.
Oh.
And
seems like ages ago.
Yeah, I know, doesn't it? Well, and in some ways it probably is, because remember seeing your mom in such a totally different light.
Yeah.
Loving and accepting it, you know, and with her passing, I mean, some of that, I mean, where's some of that going, even process?
That definitely sticks with you. I feel like, you know, I got a lot from my mom, a lot of my love and a lot of my tolerance towards people, and a lot of, you know, forgiveness and trying to look beyond the small disagreements of from my mom. My mom and dad are both always big forgivers. I used to think they were idiots for the people that they would forgive. You know, I'd be like, "What? You know, Dad, if you forgive them, where's the justice?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And but my parents both taught me the value of forgiveness and how amazing it is, and I mean, it just sets you free. But one of the strange things was when my mom passed away. You know, while she was sick, I made a stance for LGBT folks, and I got more letters about the stance that I took of people being upset with me than I did about, I'm sorry your mom's dying, you know, or I'm sorry after my mom died. And to me, it was like, you know, these people say, oh, Jay, we just love you and we just don't want you to go down this slippery slope. And I'm like, you know, if you love me, wouldn't you be more concerned with the fact that my mother's about to pass away rather than theology? You always hear that thing, love this sinner, hate the sin, and I always hated that because I felt like it was impossible and confusing and it didn't work. And I just started studying it and praying about it, and I really just over time felt like, you know, I really felt like a conviction happening in my heart. And it was ironic because I got invited to speak at Exodus. And that ended up falling through, but what happened was a newspaper called me and asked me if I thought someone could change their sexuality. And I said no. And they canceled me at Exodus because they, you know, I mean, that's kind of goes against
counterproductive.
Yeah, counterproductive for them. And they were very gracious about it, you know what I mean? But it was during that time that I had booked another church that I was speaking at that was a gay affirming church.
Right.
You know, I just go where I'm asked.
Yeah.
And it was at that church, and Peggy Campola was there, where the conviction just came over me. And that's when I said, you know, I'm gay affirming. Yeah. I don't see this as a sin issue. I mean, everybody in their sexual lives have sin and fallen things, but you know, I'm for marriage equality, and And that's caused me a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because that's following your convictions isn't always easy.
Right.
And I counted the cost, and I knew that what it was going to cost me, and I was unfortunately right. All my speaking engagements canceled, all the support, a lot of support left. I mean, eventually some things came back around.
Yeah.
They're not like they used to be.
Yeah.
And a lot of people see me now as, oh, you're the gay affirming pastor.
Exactly. Yeah.
Rather than the guy.
Objectified again,
Rather than the guy who loves to talk about grace.
Right,
you know what I mean? And so to me, it's, I just want to get back to, I'm not the preacher, but I just want to get back to showing people love and grace and hope.
Yeah.
Because I believe that's how we fulfill the law, how we become stronger people, how we avoid sin more, is because we respond out of a love to God,
Yeah.
I'm, I do things because I love people, not because I fear people.
Yeah.
Usually when I fear people, I avoid them.
Right.
And I did that a lot with God because I thought God hated me. Because, I felt like I could never live up to those expectations. And then I realized that that's not even the God of the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah.
For example, I just saw, there was a lot of talk about Ted Haggard speaking at some events. And I saw some Christians being upset because they felt that his restoration was happening too fast. But the fact that restoration didn't happen is a miracle. And I wish people would realize that. My parents were not restored. No one built them up and cared for them and said, oh, come speak at our churches, until way after my dad had been in prison. And the first church he spoke at was like, they set it up to make it as though he was there on his own. And you know what I mean? They wanted to see how it would fit.
I see.
And I just saw all those things. And to me, we're called to restore. And Galatians says, if you think you're too good to restore somebody, you're really fooling yourself. You're nobody at all.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to start restoring people. That's what I want to leave people with, is let's restore people and let's love people. They might not change exactly how we want them to change, but let's do our best to love them and restore them. When God restores someone, it's better than new. God's restoration is supposedly supposed to be better than new. When we restore someone, it's like, okay, we'll let you have, if we do restore you, you're going to have a church of 50 rather than a church of 10,000. We're not,
punitive
we're going to remember, we're going to remember that, and that's what you're going to be remembered for. And I understand that's humanity. That's human. Our minds work that way.
Yeah.
But luckily, we serve a God that does whose mind doesn't work that way. Love covers a multitude of sins. It's just, look up that word multitude in the Greek. It covers a lot. Perfect love casts out all fear. We keep coming back to love God with all your heart and your neighbor as yourself. They'll know you you belong to me for your love for one another.
Yeah.
So it's this constant thing of love. Look at Corinthians 13, 4 through 7. Try to practice those things. Look at what the fruits of the Spirit are. Trees don't eat their own fruit. Fruits to share with others. Peace, patience, kindness. Those are things you learn through loving people. I think if we practice these things, people would run into the churches.
Yeah.